try something so good you get hungry just thinking about it? At Red Lobster's Big Festival of Shrimp, get your perfect pair for just $15.99. Choose 2 of 6 new and classic shrimp creations, like bold new firecracker red shrimp, exploding with flavor? Yeah, they are. Or try new creamy shrimp linguine and new sweet bourbon brown sugar grilled shrimp. Flavors like these are big, and for just $15.99, they can't last. So hurry in.
Think about the average Fox News viewer and how misinformed or underinformed they are. Now think about the average Fox News viewer being the President of the United States. Well, it turns out that Trump, on various occasions, has just regurgitated what he saw or heard on Fox News. And we have an example of that. Now, the latest example actually includes a report that Fox did. Abby Huntsman was actually the person who was talking about this, on Chelsea Manning. Now, they were reporting on a piece that Chelsea Manning recently wrote in The Guardian, criticizing President Barack Obama for being a little too, being too easy on Republicans, wanting to negotiate. Except when she did that segment, she specifically said that Chelsea Manning had called President Obama weak. Now, if you read the piece, Chelsea Manning never referred to President Obama as weak. In fact, she was very clear about how Obama did some good things, but the biggest flaw was how he went out of his way to work with Republicans who had no interest in working with him whatsoever. Now, as soon as that segment aired, Donald Trump tweeted about Chelsea Manning. And here's what the tweet said. Ungrateful traitor Chelsea Manning, who should never have been released from prison, is now calling President Obama a weak leader. Terrible. Okay, no one said that Chelsea Manning called Obama weak except for Fox News. And so Brian Stelter noticed this as well, and he tweeted, 14 minutes apart, Fox says ungrateful traitor, Trump says ungrateful traitor, Fox says weak leader, Trump says weak leader. By the way, that segment is now nowhere to be found. We've been looking for it all day so we could show it to you guys. They wiped it from the internet.
Yeah, and you know what kind of a leader just repeats talking points that he heard on Fox News Channel? A weak leader. A leader who leads from behind.
Yeah.
Okay, now, as you're going to see here, let's go to graphic 14, because Chelsea Manning didn't use the word weak. And I thought her point was excellent. Mm-hmm. Chelsea, thanks for watching TYT. We appreciate it. Here's what she wrote. The one simple lesson to draw from President Obama's legacy, do not start off with a compromise. They won't meet you in the middle. Instead, what we need is an unapologetic progressive leader.
Nailed it.
Did I say that, or did Chelsea say that? Okay. So I love it. Of course, I agree with Chelsea Manning. That's why I love that statement. But it's right on the substance. But it didn't say Obama was weak. It said he had the wrong strategy and he was too conciliatory.
Yes.
So that's why it's telling that Trump used the same exact words that Fox News did.
Yes. And so that's part of the story. And it's very clear that Donald Trump loves Fox News, watches Fox News, pays very close attention to what the hosts of Fox News have to say. Now, another example of that was given during David Muir's interview of Donald Trump. Now, this interview on ABC touched on a lot of different issues, but at one point, Donald Trump was wagging his finger at Muir, and pretty much every media outlet except Fox News. Take a look.
I went to the CIA, my first step. I have great respect for the people in intelligence and CIA. I don't have a lot of respect for, in particular, one of the leaders, but I have a lot of respect for the people in the CIA. That speech was a home run. That speech, if you look at Fox, I'll mention it in your network, see what Fox said. They said it was one of the great speeches. They showed the people applauding and screaming, and you and other networks covered it very inaccurately. I hate to say this to you, and you probably won't put it on, but turn on Fox and see how it was covered, and see how people respond to that speech. That speech was a good speech, and you and a couple of other networks tried to downplay that speech, and it was very, very unfortunate that you did. I am curious about the first full day here at the White House.
Okay, so we included Muir's next question because his response to that was absurd. He looked like a child who was just being punished for doing accurate coverage, by the way, of what happened on the Inauguration Day. And he just moves on to something else. What are you doing? What are you doing? But that's the reason why someone like David Muir gets the interview, right?
He's going to move on, yeah. And so there's two elements here. Number one is, okay, all he does is watch Fox News. So he's going to, if you thought it was bad already that Trump is Trump, apparently he's Trump plus Fox News. Like, that's where he gets most of the thoughts in his empty head. You know, we talked about how, like Bush, even his friends and allies say Trump will listen to the last guy in the room. But a lot of times people leave, and the last guy in the room is Fox News because he's watching TV, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that's it, that's right. Bill O'Reilly's right about Chicago." There's, and he quotes O'Reilly with the exact same language. He puts it on Twitter. Same thing now with Chelsea Manning. The second thing is, man, I'm beginning to think we're not even a week in here, and I'm beginning to think he's not going to last. I mean, this is because again, I always think about those voters that I said would be reluctant to vote for Hillary Clinton, that did wind up voting for Donald Trump. They want a populist, they want change, but they don't want a child. So that mom in Kansas looks at that and goes, "You just said your own speech was a home run?"
No. And by the way, so what Trump was criticizing there in terms of media coverage was that the other outlets didn't get on their hands and knees and talk about how much they loved his speech, right? He was talking about how Fox News said it was a wonderful speech. That's like your opinion, man, right?
No, but it's more than that. It's awkward. It's so people don't like people who brag. Now, when he did it on the campaign trail, I think they thought, yeah, go get him, and that's part of running for office, and you have to prove your case. And so, and I didn't we made fun of him because he speaks like a third grader, but we get that you thump your chest. In fact, I give him credit for that because I thought Obama didn't thump his chest nearly enough. But when you're in office and you're going around not just arguing forcefully for your policy positions, but you're going around saying, "I give great speeches. My speeches are home runs." It's embarrassing. And I'm telling you, it's going to remind that mom in Kansas of her 11-year-old.
Yeah.
She's going to be like, "Wait, why does he keep saying that? That's really..."
Yeah.
So you got to stop doing that, right? But he can't help himself because he's a petulant child. Become a member of the Young Turks.
I think it's weird.
No, it's not. Afterwards, you'll think,
I'm like a smart person.
TYTnetwork.com/join.
Donald Trump was set to have a meeting with Mexico's president next week, but Mexico's president has decided to call off that meeting since Trump is pushing forward with a border wall that he still claims will be paid for by Mexicans. Now, Enrique Peña Nieto decided to tweet about this and said the following. By the way, we're translating because he tweeted in Spanish. "This morning we informed the White House that I will not attend the work meeting planned for next Tuesday with the President of the United States." Now, Trump also released his own statement about this during a GOP retreat in Philly. Let's take a look at that.
President of Mexico and myself have agreed to cancel our planned meeting scheduled for next week. Unless Mexico is going to treat the United States fairly, with respect, such a meeting would be fruitless, and I want to go a different route. We have no choice.
Okay, so this is, okay.
Child, through and through. He didn't cancel the meeting, I canceled the meeting. I canceled. Well, we mutually decided to cancel, but I canceled. It's on the record, he said he was canceling the meeting before you went out and did that.
Yeah. So now let's talk about the wall. Because Donald Trump has promised time and time again that the American taxpayer does not have to worry about paying for this wall, that Mexico will pay for the wall, and you still have top officials, including the president of Mexico, saying, no, under no circumstance will we pay for the wall. Well, the plan has now been released, and Donald Trump is planning on taxing Mexican imports at 20%. Okay? So on the surface, that sounds like maybe that's not a bad idea, right? Maybe it'll work. Except, no, it's a disastrous idea. So, let me give you some stats. So, about 80% of Mexico's exports go to the United States. So, already it seems like, oh man, the U.S. has a lot of leverage, right? Mexico stands to lose a lot if they don't agree to paying this 20% tax. Except, it'll have severe ramifications on the U.S. economy as well. In fact, Mexico is our third largest supplier, and they supply a lot of things that help businesses run here in the United States. So about $24 billion worth of cars get imported to the United States from Mexico. And so some might argue, all right, well, maybe we'll bring manufacturing jobs back here in the United States, and that'll create jobs that'll be good. Except, no, there are actually a lot of car companies here in the United States that rely on parts that are made in Mexico as well, to the tune of $75 billion a year. This is based on figures from 2015, by the way. Also, it's not just about cars. We import a lot of products from Mexico, refrigerators, produce, things that you don't even think of. They're imported from Mexico. And so what will likely happen if Mexico decides to play ball and pay a 20% tax? Well, they'll just increase the prices of their products, and then we're kind of screwed as American consumers.
So, and the people that will increase the price, as far as you see, will be the car makers and the refrigerator companies, because they had to pay 20% higher. So, you think they're just going to eat that cost? No, they're going to pass it on to you. So then, okay, and by the way, a lot of people will agree with that anyway. That's fine. Just know what you're getting, and so your products are going to be a little bit more expensive. And maybe that's the thing that you could live with. But those are the consequences of his actions, because those actions are not cost-free.
And by the way, if we're having a discussion about how we need more manufacturing jobs here in the United States, and so as a result, Americans with their devastatingly stagnant wages will just have to pay a little more for these products, okay, it's an interesting argument. But keep in mind why this would happen. It would happen so we can build an ineffective wall for an issue that we don't have. More Mexicans are leaving the United States than coming in. Pew Research. It's a study that no one ever talks about, right? And so right now, we're actually losing more undocumented immigrants than coming in, than them coming in, right? And so we're building a wall for nothing, besides which there are other ways of getting into the country. Just because you're building a wall doesn't mean that they're not going to find a way of getting in. If they want, they can build tunnels. There are other ways of doing it, right? And so to say, I'm just going to build a big, beautiful wall that's going to solve everything is ridiculous, especially when at the moment it's a non-issue.
So it has begun, the consequences of Donald Trump's actions, right? So when, just to prove that I'm going to get Mexico to do it, he does something like this, well, then they're going to retaliate, and this is just the beginning. So now it's Mexico, a huge trading partner for us. One day it could be China, and if China retaliates, then we've got higher prices here in America. A lot of people are going to be upset. Look, whenever the gas goes up or down, people get super mad, obviously, when it goes up. I think it's the president's fault. Most of the time, the president has absolutely nothing to do with it. By the way, when the gas prices then fell to dramatic lows under Obama, he didn't get a lot of credit for that. Let's note that for the record. But Americans look at it, they are a little oversimplistic in that sense. So if they see prices rising, they could be like, what happened here? I thought things were supposed to be better, not worse.
Right.
So he's playing with fire a little bit.
But he's going to create a lot of great manufacturing jobs in an unregulated economy, right? Where, he wants to do away with workers' rights, workers' protections to ensure that, we're making decent money for the jobs that we do have. So, look, another thing to keep in mind is we do import oil from Mexico. We also import cell phones from Mexico. We import all sorts of things from Mexico. Again, the third largest supplier of goods in America. So it will have a significant consequence if he follows through with this, but it seems like he's very gung-ho about building a useless wall.
Yeah, well, it would be such a Trump move that if he were to finally build a wall, and I don't think it's ever going to get fully built, he builds it, and then the Mexicans can't get out. And he's like, oops.
Well, actually, interestingly enough, Trump and private prisons have a great interest in ensuring that they don't get out and that they get detained here in the United States with U.S. taxpayers footing the bill.
Animals are innocent.
TYTnetwork.com/join.
David Muir interviewed Donald Trump, and while they talked about a number of things, including building that big, beautiful wall along the Mexican border, they also discussed a topic that Donald Trump just refuses to let go. The size of the inauguration crowd, the number of people who came to watch him get sworn in. Now, at this point, I feel like we should all move on. Why is this an issue? Why is he so obsessed with this? But he's obsessed with proving that he's popular because he's an insecure man. Now, if you don't believe me, take a look at this video where Trump talks to Muir about just how gigantic the crowds were.
Part of my whole victory was that the men and women of this country who have been forgotten will never be forgotten again. Part of that is when they try and demean me unfairly, because we had a massive crowd of people. We had a crowd. I looked over that sea of people, and I said to myself, wow. And I've seen crowds before, big crowds. That was some crowd. When I looked at the numbers that happened to come in from all of the various sources, we had the biggest audience in the history of inaugural speeches. I won't allow you or other people like you to demean that crowd and to demean the people that came to Washington, D.C. from faraway places because they like me.
That was insane. So, look, just a fact check, and you guys already know, but just in case. In that statement, he said it was the largest crowd in history. Okay, there were 250,000 people in that crowd. Obama's first inauguration had 1.8 million. His second inauguration had 1 million. That was not the largest crowd. It was actually a visibly obvious small crowd.
Yeah, small crowd. And this is now like almost a week later. Muir didn't bring it up. Trump brought it up. And who says things like, they really like me? It's embarrassing, dude. He said, when you look at this tremendous sea of love, who talks about a sea of love for himself? I'll tell you who. Kim Jong-il. Okay? That's who talks about it.
It's very creepy. And it's, look, right now, there's chaos in the State Department because top-level officials left, right? The most experienced members of our State Department left. And so they have to find people to fill those positions. And he's sitting there talking about crowd sizes. It's absurd. And by the way, if you thought that was crazy, take a look at this next video where he takes Muir on a tour of photos that are already up on the White House walls. Take a look.
Here's a picture of the event. Here's a picture of the crowd. Now, the audience was the biggest ever, but this crowd was massive. Look how far back it goes. This crowd was massive, and I would actually take that camera and take your time if you want to know the truth.
Did he do it again?
Oh, he did it again. Take a look.
Another one.
And just before we leave, the president tells us he wants to show us just one more image.
One thing this shows is how far over they go here. Look how far this is. This goes all the way down here, all the way down. Nobody sees that. You don't see that in the pictures. But when you look at this tremendous sea of love, I call it a sea of love, it's really something special that all these people traveled here from all parts of the country, maybe the world, but all parts of the country. Hard for them to get here. And they loved what I had to say.
At this point, but here's the thing. At this point, I just want him to, not talk about this anymore and focus on more important things. So let's just all tell him that, yeah, you had the largest crowd in American history.
No, Donald, you are so large.
It's so big, Donald. Gigantic.
It's bigly. It's tremendous.
Oh
okay. So, now, imagine for 1 second, Obama, after he was inaugurated, took a reporter on a tour of the White House, kept showing him his crowds and saying, there was a sea of love for me. Remember how Rush Limbaugh and Fox News used to say, oh, he's a celebrity, and he's so obsessed with himself because he gave a speech in Denver where there were some Roman columns next to him, and what does he think he is? And stuff. Imagine if he said, there's a sea of love for me. They love what I had to say.
No,
but Obama would never say that.
No. Please allow me to juxtapose this with something Obama did that was justified and people lost their minds. I wish I remember which state it was. Maybe you'll remember. Jake and I did a story about a small town that was suffering economically under the Bush administration. Obama comes in and, because of a large part of his economic policies, this small town starts to thrive again. They're all of a sudden, the business in that town, I believe it was automobile companies.
It was auto parts. It was in Indiana.
Indiana, okay.
And so since he had revived the auto industry, but specifically the parts that they sold in that town, the unemployment went from I think around 13%. We're doing this from memory, obviously, to around under 5%. They added all these, not only regained the jobs, but added jobs in that town.
Yeah, so the economy is booming in this particular area. In fact, they don't have enough time to fill all the orders that they're getting, right? So you would think, oh, they're happy because of these policies that have obviously worked. Obama goes and he gives a speech in that small town, and they're livid because Obama took some credit for some of his economic policies that obviously had a positive effect in the small town. They were livid. Like, oh, can you believe that he's taking credit for this? But then you have Trump, who can't stop talking about how big his freaking crowds are and how great his speeches are. Where's the criticism from the right? This is insane.
No, look, the right-wing leaders are not leaders. They're sycophants. And so they're never going to, stand up to him. To be fair, there was a couple of right-wing bloggers and radio hosts who stood up to him, and that's it. There's a handful, right? So, but his voters matter more. I think voters look at this, and I don't care if, so the deplorables, they're beta males, so they will do whatever the alpha male says. If he says they have big crowds, so Daddy had big crowds. Daddy, stop saying you meanie liberals, right? But I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the half of his voters who thought, well, let's give the guy a shot because we can't stand this. Those guys look at that and go, what a child! Move on already, for God's sake, about your the size issues, right? Everyone can tell how small your penis is. It's really embarrassing. Please move on. And so I think he's doing more damage than he realizes here. And one is about the crowd size. The other is, it's one thing when you're campaigning. It's another, I'm telling you, that when he keeps saying, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, and he doesn't say it like Ali did with like a wink and a nod, like Muhammad Ali did, right? He says it like earnestly, like, people love me. You're good, they love me, I'm the best. Midwesterners are those guys in the Rust Belt, the women in the Rust Belt, eventually they're gonna have to avert their eyes like, oh God, it's a train wreck. So, look at that. And he's telling us this is the biggest inauguration crowd ever. Dude, we have eyes. We can see. And by the way, so can your voters. Stop embarrassing yourself. He's in for a world of hurt, man. He's never going to let it go. That's who he is. He is that child.
I know he's not going to let it go, which is why, again, this issue, I don't even care about this issue. If we have to lie to him and make him feel good about himself, let's lie to him and make him feel good about himself so he can focus on other things.
And that's the story I did yesterday or 2 days ago, when his own allies and advisors say you have to talk to him carefully.
Right.
Don't talk to him. Don't embarrass him in front of others, but pull Donnie aside. And you can say to him, hey, Donnie, maybe we should move on. I keep lowering the age. He's a child, man. And really 4 years. We're going to go 4 years of this?
Yep.
And you hinted at it. But think about it. How many days? 5 days? So he's got multiple pictures of the crowd on the wall, framed, exquisitely. That's part of the work he's been putting in.
No, it's
in his
insane.
first several days in the White House.
It's insane.
We gotta get pictures up. We have to get pictures up. They're coming to interview. We got pictures up today of this crowd. Yeah. So what we really needed was balance. Obama wouldn't market himself if his life depended on it. Well, that's not true. During the campaigns he did. He did a great job during the campaigns. Mm-hmm. But he wouldn't market Democratic or progressive ideas if his life depended on it while he was president. He would whisper it. Okay? So he's on one end of the scale. The other end of the scale is Trump was like, oh, everything of mine is great. My jacket is great. My cufflinks are great. My watch is great. My eyes are great. I'm great. Everybody loves me, right? Can we get somewhere in the middle? Where if you did something that helped the American people, you might want to take credit for it because it's not to help you, but it's to help your policy positions, right? And certainly don't go anywhere near Trump with I'm the best. Can you imagine, again, Bernie Sanders, if he ran that campaign I want to tell everybody how great I am. And he said that, oh, well, I don't know, can we risk Bernie Sanders being president? Are you kidding me? If you sign up for TYT membership, you'll be saying,
thanks a lot, bitch.
TYTnetwork.com/join.
During the first week of Trump's administration, it appears that there is quite a bit of chaos happening in the State Department. Apparently, the entire senior administrative team has decided to resign, and this is a bit of an issue considering the fact that those are highly experienced individuals who usually stay on board whether the administration is Democrat or Republican. So keep in mind that Rex Tillerson is the individual who is in charge. He has been named Secretary of State, so he's inexperienced in this role, and now those who are the most experienced in the State Department have stepped down. Okay, so let me give you the details. The entire senior level of management officials resigned Wednesday, part of an ongoing mass exodus of senior Foreign Service officers who don't want to stick around for the Trump era. Now, before I go any further, let me clarify one thing. There's a little bit of a question as to whether or not they were forced out or whether or not they resigned on their own. However, I'll give you a little more detail to that. It turns out that several of them, actually all of them, had given resignation letters prior to this being announced. So it appears that they resigned, but who knows? All right, so Assistant Secretary of State for Administration Joyce Ann Barr, Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs Michelle Bond, and Ambassador Gentry O. Smith, Director of the Office of Foreign Missions, followed Patrick Kennedy out the door. All are career Foreign Service officers who have served under both Republican and Democratic administrations. Why is this a big deal? Well, in addition, Assistant Secretary of State for Diplomatic Security Gregory Starr retired January 20th, and the Director of the Bureau of Overseas Building Operations, Lydia Muniz, also departed on the same day. So again, all of the really experienced people have left, and this has never happened before. There might be a little bit of a change once a new administration comes in, but you don't have the entire senior administrative team leaving all at once.
Okay, so you have to look for clues as to figure out how this happened and why it happened. So here's my sense of it. One of the important clues here is that they say just days before he resigned, Kennedy, the main guy here, was taking more responsibility inside the department and was working closely with the transition team. So it appears that it wasn't like they didn't like Trump from day one. They had an intention to all resign and do it at the same time from day one. So they wrote the letters in advance, but during transition, sometimes people write resignation letters in case the president would like to have new staff. Mm-hmm. So it's unclear if those resignation letters were pro forma or they were specific to this situation. But the fact to me that Kennedy continued to, according to inside sources, was positioning himself for a position there, maybe even a better position, and then all of a sudden left, leads me to believe that it was not that they were just simply politically against Trump or had some sort of moral objections to him, but that something happened there. That the Trump transition team did something to Kennedy that apparently outraged them so thoroughly that all of them resigned together. Because all of them resigning together, that's either a moral statement, because they're like, we're not going to work for a guy like this, right? Or it's, I can't believe he did that to a guy I really like, and let alone what he would do to us. No, that's it. We're leaving. But it is not a coincidence. That's not all these people historically resigning at the same time. Is not like, oh, well, look at that. What a interesting development.
Right. Now, keep in mind, these are also, members of the administrative team that were on board during the Obama administration, right? And so Trump has been very vocal against some of the foreign policy that was implemented by the Obama administration, and particularly the actions of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. And so, again, you can sit here and speculate as to what happened behind the scenes. We don't know without a shadow of a doubt what's going on. There's the possibility that Trump's crazy and he's just like, I don't like anyone, let's get rid of them. But I'm less likely to believe that just because this is going to lead to so much chaos, and the person who is now named Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, is so incredibly inexperienced when it comes to issues like this.
Yeah, but you're looking at it as if they're rational.
I know.
And you're right, I should mention the third possibility is that Trump's team came in and said, no, this is not a matter of debate. You're all gone. So I had, that's, to me, less likely because of what you said, whoa, they're going to be, up the creek without a paddle. But remember that Trump came in and told all the heads of the different cabinets not just the Secretary of State, and so of course John Kerry's going to leave when Obama leaves, right? But people that were in similar positions in all the different cabinet positions. Sorry, he told them to get out, pack your bags. I want you out by the end of the day, which is very unusual. So it's also possible that Trump did this, but whatever the reason, it's not good news because these guys are also in charge of things like diplomatic security and consular affairs. And as the experts point out, there is no equivalent of that in the private sector. You can't just go like, oh, that's okay. He's, CFO of Merrill Lynch, and so he knows how to do consular affairs.
No, but
he doesn't. Right?
Here's the thing, though. Of course, it's nearly impossible to find someone in the private sector who has the experience necessary to take on any of these roles. But would he pick people who have no experience to fill these roles? Absolutely, I have no doubt. And by the way, just to be specific about how disastrous this is, right? And by the way, Republicans who are always like peeing in their pants over national security should be really worried about this, right? They think Muslims are an imminent threat. We should all be really worried about them. Well, what's happening in the State Department right now? And how long is it taking Donald Trump to nominate individuals for very, very important, roles within the administration having to do with foreign policy, whether it be in the State Department or organizations having to do with national security? Okay, so the officials who manage the building and thousands of overseas diplomatic posts are charged with taking care of Americans overseas and protecting U.S. diplomats risking their lives abroad. The career foreign service officers are crucial to those functions as well as to implementing the new president's agenda. So this is, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but it doesn't sound good.
Yeah, they're not winning with this. This is a mess. So Rex Tillerson, obviously not confirmed yet, but he is the nominee, and he has absolutely no experience in this field. And now all the experienced people have left the building. So, and it's not like we have a president who is vigilant and has done his homework, and he's like, oh, no problem. We planned for just such a contingency, and so we have all these people ready to replace them. No, it's going to be a mess for quite some time. Fix the media. Be the media. Come join us. tytnetwork.com/join.
After the New York Times reported that there was a draft executive order that would allow for torture by the U.S. government, it turns out that some of the top officials in Trump's administration were completely blindsided and unaware. Now, to be clear, it turns out that Trump's administration, Trump himself and his spokesperson says, no, this was not coming from the White House. We did not draft this executive order. So they're denying it, but Donald Trump has been very clear about the fact that he is in favor of torture, and he does want our military to use torture as a form of enhanced interrogation. Now, with that all said, Mike Pompeo, the new CIA director under President Donald Trump, only learned about a draft executive action, paving the way for the CIA to reintroduce waterboarding and black site prisons through news reports. Politico reported that both Pompeo and Defense Secretary James Mattis were unaware of the draft order until the Times published its piece. So I think that's interesting. Do you believe Trump and Spicer when they say, no, it's not coming from the White House. We don't know who leaked that. We don't know what that is.
Well, of course I don't believe him. I saw Donald Trump on ABC yesterday tell me that he's in favor of waterboarding and torture. It's like, what, did they make it up? Did they roll tape on that? I know. Anything that he says later they will claim is fake news because it shouldn't be taken literally, and there are alternative facts involved. But all that now is, we saw it with our own eyes. He said he was in favor of it. So, of course there was a draft order. The New York Times didn't make that up, and even if they did, I'm not even going to get into even if that's absurd talk, right? If you're a Trump supporter, didn't you applaud him yesterday when he told David Muir that he was in favor of those extreme tactics? So, I mean, I can't see how they could possibly deny it.
I know, it's kind of incredible. But another thing to keep in mind, though, and this is honestly my favorite part of the story, is how much divide there is in Congress when it comes to this issue, right? So when you hear something like torture, waterboarding, some of the tactics that were used under the Bush administration, you think you're not going to have members of the GOP speak out against this and speak out aggressively against it. But there are actually a number of senators that are saying, no, we under no circumstance will do this form of enhanced interrogation. John McCain has been the most vocal, and I actually give him a lot of credit for this. He said, and I quote, "The president can sign whatever executive orders he likes, but the law is the law. We are not bringing back torture in the United States of America." Now, John McCain was a victim of torture himself for years when he was a prisoner of war. And so he understands that it doesn't work. It's a terrible idea. It breaks international laws. And so I, again, applaud him for making that statement. Now, Senator John Thune also made a similar statement. He says, with respect to torture, that's banned. The Army Field Manual makes that very clear, and the law now is tied to the Army Field Manual. And by the way, let me be clear about something. Donald Trump can't unilaterally call for torture, right? You need Congress to vote on it. Now, Trump is crazy, and it doesn't seem like he cares much about laws, so I guess he could do things unilaterally and not really face any consequences for it.
Well, no, but that's the thing. He might face consequences for it. So if you break the law, you could get impeached if you actually had political opponents who cared, or even allies who cared about the rule of law. So let me explain the background, and then I'm going to tell you why this story is super important for two different reasons. So when Obama first came in, he had promised that he was going to end the year of torture and waterboarding, and he did sign an executive order right away. Now, for the right-wing critics of Obama and his executive orders, I know you all thought it was unconstitutional. Now, at the same time, you love Trump's executive orders. Yeah. Just let that irony sink in for a second. But that's okay, because that's not relevant anymore, because in 2015, they took that order and they made an amendment to a defense authorization bill, so it's now law. Congress voted on it. It went through official channels. It is the law of the land. When we are doing interrogation, we must follow the Army Field Manual, which prohibits torture and waterboarding, and we must allow the Red Cross to inspect the detainees. Now, Trump has also said that he will apparently, according to the story that we're talking about here, not allow the Red Cross to examine detainees. Now, the only reason you won't let the Red Cross examine them is because you have tortured them, or you've done something horrific to them. So, now, Trump's very clear. He's on the record. He just said it yesterday in a national interview, right? Now, reason number one why this is a very important story is he's so unprepared. It's frightening. Because any rational politician would think, okay, what did Pompeo and Sessions as well, by the way, the Attorney General, he's on the record. He said during his confirmation proceedings, because remember, he's going to be the top lawyer in the country, right, the head of the Justice Department. He said that 2015 law that I referenced, quote, makes it absolutely improper and illegal to use waterboarding or any other form of torture. That's the incoming Attorney General Jeff Sessions who said that just a couple of days ago, right? So a prepared president would have checked, hey, what did Sessions promise? What did Mattis, my defense secretary, promise? What did Pompeo, the CIA director, promise? Oh, in their confirmation proceedings, they all definitively said on the record that they would not do torture or waterboarding.
Right.
So now, if you're going to throw a curveball, you're going to do a draft memo, or you're going to go on ABC and say, well, screw that, I am going to do torture. You would check with them first, and you would tell them, look, here's the messaging we're going to do from now on. Now, I know I put you in a tough spot because you just said publicly and on the record that you wouldn't do it, but I'm the president and I want to do torture. And then you would prepare how to handle that.
Right.
But he's a clown. He doesn't do any homework. He's Joffrey. So he's like, I want to do torture. Why won't they let me do torture? I want to do torture.
Okay, so I have some more information on why he's so incredibly unprepared. So there was a report that got published recently about high-level meetings among officials in the administration and how Donald Trump will literally dip out of those meetings because he's got to call Joe Scarborough of Morning Joe. He's obsessed with cable news. He's obsessed, right? And so I don't know what kind of conversations they're having. I think it's super weird that those conversations are taking place. I think it's very dangerous for the president to, skip out on or leave high-level meetings like that where he would be briefed on things that are important, on situations where he should be working together with the same individuals that he nominated in these high-level positions.
Now, he's in a lot of trouble, man. Can you really go 4 years without... like preparing anything when you're the most powerful man on earth? Can you blunder into one decision after another without checking with anybody, without doing your homework? It is going to be an epic disaster. So that leads to point number 2 as to why this story is so important. Because now, for the first time, we see Republican pushback. Now, I know that he prefers people who weren't captured. It's a famous line he said about John McCain. But John McCain is very well respected in Congress, especially among his Republican colleagues, and especially on this issue. So when John McCain says, no, I don't care what Donald Trump says, we are not going to authorize torture, there is a lot of weight to that, okay? That's not just a flippant comment, and it's not just a liberal member that you could roll over and have the Republicans go, I don't care, man, we got rid of the filibuster, whatever, right? All these things. No. He's part of the Republican Party and instrumental in it. And when the number 3 guy in the party says, no, it's settled law, we're done with it. Okay, now we're at loggerheads. And so Democratic opinion, you can say that's not like your opinion, man. Republican opinion, they control Congress. Mm-hmm. So now, but that doesn't mean that we know which direction this is going to go and how it's going to end. But we're going to find out partly because of this issue. So if the John Thunes of the world eventually turn around and go, sorry, dear leader, and they submit to Trump, well then, oh boy, there are no brakes in the car, and we are going to careen out of control, okay?
Yeah.
On the other hand, if they make a stand here, and they say, Mr. President, I'm sorry, but that is the law, and we're going to follow the law, and if you'd like to propose a bill, we're happy to discuss it and debate it and vote on it, well then, okay, then you've got your first check on Donald Trump, which is a good thing for the country, and later, if he continues to go wildly out of control, could be the beginning of the end for him as more and more Republican votes line up against him.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens, and quite honestly, my pessimistic side, which is a huge part of who I am when it comes to this issue, says that eventually members of Congress are going to realize just how powerful Donald Trump is in manipulating the conversation. Because think about it, right? So you have to think about the average American voter and the types of voters who went for someone like Donald Trump. And so think about how easy of a sell it is if you're Donald Trump. You just go to the American people and you tell them, oh, look at John McCain. He wants us to treat these terrorists fairly. He wants us to, treat them with kid gloves. Like, is that, he's so good at manipulating the conversation. So I feel like it might be a political risk for people like John McCain to do the right thing in this case.
No, it's definitely a political risk. For a while, John McCain was really sweating his own election in Arizona. That was also this year, or last year now, because he had said some things against Donald Trump and had that beef with him. And so the Republican voters like Trump. They like him a lot. So he had to kind of backpedal out of there. But now he doesn't face election for another 6 years, and by that time, Trump might be impeached 3 times over. But we don't know if that's going to happen. So what I'm saying is, the resistance in Congress has begun. It might end quickly, and then, oh boy, he's going to run roughshod.
Yes.
Or it becomes real and multiplies. So that right there is an excellent indication of what the next 4 years, if it's 4 years, is going to be. Because today I was talking to a reporter, and they said, hey, you're famous for predictions. I was like, oh, am I? Good. Okay. And they're like, so go ahead, prediction man. Make a prediction about what happens to Trump. Well, that's the thing. You need facts before you make the prediction. So I have all the facts in the world about who Donald Trump is, but I don't know what the reaction is going to be. Are the Republicans going to bow their heads, or are they going to use him for all the tax cuts, for all the giveaways to the corporations, for the deregulation, and then when they're done with them, go, oh yeah, this crazy guy, we didn't mean it. Besides which, he's not really a Republican, then throw him aside.
Yeah.
So, and he is out of control, so they might be forced to do it, but if they do, they're going to they're going to pillage the government and pretend it was Trump, when in reality it's their donors that asked for it.
Right.
So that's the thing to look out for.
Right. Also, just keep Reek in mind, right? Think of Mitt Romney. Think of Nikki Haley. Think of all of the people think of Paul Ryan, all of the people that were adamantly against him, and then later on, they were monkeys giving Trump their bananas.
Yeah. No, that's it. The era of nicknames is on. I already like nicknames. I like fun and cool nicknames. Mm-hmm. But, I'm going to some people, a lot of people don't realize that when we did #LoserDonald, that we were mocking Donald Trump for coming up with goofy and overly simplistic nicknames, and they think like, "Oh, come on, Cenk, that's too simplistic." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, that's the point." Anyway, so from now on, he's Reek Romney.
Reek Romney. Oh,
okay, and it's Donald Joffrey Trump, and more nicknames to come. But Joffrey, watch yourself, man. If you get too many enemies, there's a purple future politically, maybe. But yet, there's not enough data in yet. But this is not good news for Trump. This leans towards his days might be numbered. Also because he's so goddamn unstable. Once you become a member of the Young Turks, you're going to be thinking, Sarabies! TYTnetwork.com/join.
Listen.
This year, Chevy's received more J.D. Power Initial Quality Awards than any other car brand. And the year before that. And the year before that. Chevy's received more J.D. Power Initial Quality Awards than any other car brand 4 years in a row.
Actor Casey Affleck has been nominated for an Oscar in his role in the movie Manchester by the Sea. Now, there has been a little criticism circulating around in regard to that nomination because he has faced some sexual harassment allegations in the past, which he settled out of court. Now, I'm going to get into the details of the allegations against him, but one of the people who's really upset about the fact that he was nominated for an Oscar is Constance Wu, who is an actress from Fresh Off the Boat. And so when she found out about the nomination, she actually tweeted about it. Let me read you her tweet. Men who sexually harass women for Oscar because good acting performance matters more than humanity, human integrity, because poor kid really needs the help. Boys, buy your way out of trouble by settling out of court. Just do a good acting job. That's all that matters, because art isn't about humanity, right? So, interestingly enough, she got pulled to the side, and people told her, like, this might ruin your career, so maybe you should hush up a little bit. And she didn't. So after those tweets, she shared that she had been counseled not to talk about this for her career's sake, adding, "F my career then, I'm a woman and human first. That's what my craft is built on."
So, I'm out. I don't agree with this. I think that these are allegations. They were never proven. And now they're going to haunt him for the rest of his life. And apparently, and look, if he did it, and you proved it in court, and we'll tell you what the details are. There's no way of doing a story without telling the details, even though that means you're dredging up all the allegations, etc. And he did settle, and you got to know the whole context. But if he did it, and you think it's horrible, etc., then okay, then you're happy that he's haunted by it, and you think he should be more haunted.
I don't think he's going to be haunted by it.
Yeah. I'm not saying you. I'm saying it to the audience, right? But what if they aren't true? He vigorously denied them when they happened. Now, you say, why settle out of court? Because your acting career is going to be in serious jeopardy if you're Casey Affleck. If you go to court and they repeat these allegations over and over and over, and TMZ covers it day after day after day, right? So, or you settled out of court because you did it. I have no idea. So, but now, a lot of people are demanding that we take the allegations as 100% true and never give Casey Affleck another award, another job. It's too much, man. And if it's one thing, if it's Bill Cosby, there's 50 of the same allegations, and it's overwhelming, right? Trump, very similar, with dozens of allegations saying very similar things. Mel Gibson, very clear, on tape, right? And many witnesses, etc. It doesn't matter. We heard it with our own ears with Mel Gibson. Casey Affleck, it's two people who sued him for millions of dollars, right? And we have no idea. So now we're supposed to say, no, never give him anything again.
Yeah, look.
No, I can't go that far. No way.
I'm not outraged by your opinion. I think that, you're largely right because these allegations haven't been proven. And so, if you start punishing him for allegations that haven't been proven, well, then that sets a really bad precedent. That means that anyone can make any claim against you. And if you don't want to go through the hassle of dealing with a court case, and you settle out of court, well, then people are just going to assume that you're guilty, and that's not fair either. So I totally hear what you're saying. At the same time, though, and I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but this is just genuinely how I feel. I know it's really hard for women who have been victimized by sexual harassment or sexual assault or rape, any of that stuff. But I think it's so incredibly important to be strong and not take the settlement. Because if it is true, and again, we don't know, it's going to happen over and over again, and the settlements will happen, and you know how the media is, you know how the American public is. As soon as you settle, okay, sure, people are talking about it now, people are going to forget very quickly. Same thing happened with Bill Cosby. He settled situations out of court, and then people forgot about it until so many women came out with allegations that we couldn't ignore it anymore. But I think Casey Affleck played it just right, because once you settle out of court and these women go away, well, then there's never any real justice if the person actually did it. You see what I'm saying?
Of course. And so, look, again, context matters. When Roger Ailes was accused, several dozen women came out with very similar stories. And so, in this case, it's just that one movie that he shot with two women. It doesn't mean that if he did it, that I minimize that. I'm just saying there's not a fact pattern of the guy being accused of the same thing over and over and over again. So you got to take it with, whatever degree of salt or whatever that you think is appropriate. And then even in Roger Ailes' case, I'm not sure I believe Andrea Tantaros. It doesn't mean every allegation is true. You look at the evidence, etc. So almost all the women who accused Roger Ailes had a very, very compelling and detailed story. Tantaros came in at the end and was kind of like, oh yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too.
Kind of strange.
And everybody at Fox News was like, oh yeah, at the end, by the time Roger left, they was like, oh, it's a shame what Roger did, but not Tantaros. I was like, there's something up with Tantaros. So we don't know.
We
they're
don't
going
know.
to court. They're going to court, and we'll see what happens in that case, right?
Yeah.
But here, it's just impossible to know. And by the way, I'm not hating on Constance Wu either, and nothing should happen to her career. That's her opinion, and she's allowed to exercise that opinion.
And no one should.
And I don't hold it against her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm not sure that I agree with her. I'm not sure. I know that I don't agree with her that he shouldn't get an Oscar because of allegations from the past.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't want anyone to think I'm demonizing women who end up taking the settlements. That's not what my intention is. It's just that these stories drive me nuts because you never get closure. There's never justice. You never know what's really happening behind the scenes. And so, if it genuinely did happen to you, and you settle out of court, well, that paves the road for it to happen again in the future. You know what I'm saying? So, but I also understand the other side. It's really hard to deal with these cases, and you get demonized, especially when you're up against someone who has money and power.
So all right, last couple of things here, because now I want you to have context, because that's the other thing. We're damned if we say the allegations, we're damned if we don't, because if we don't tell you, then you might think that they're worse, right?
Yeah.
Well, what did he do? Did he, etc. So in this case,
let me give you the details because I have it all laid out here. So this isn't the entirety of the allegations, but these were the allegations that stood out to me the most. So the two women were Amanda White and Magdalena Gorka. They worked on the same film, and they both had similar complaints of sexual harassment. Now, apparently, over the course of filming, White alleged in a complaint that she was repeatedly harassed. On one occasion, she claimed that Affleck ordered a crew member to take off his pants and show White his penis, even after she vehemently objected. She claimed that Affleck repeatedly referred to women as cows and recounted his sexual exploits with reckless abandon. Gorka claimed that Affleck and other members of the production team openly talked about engaging in sexual activities with her and jokingly suggested that she have sex with a camera assistant, a good friend of Affleck's. In lieu of paying for a hotel, she said Affleck and Joaquin Phoenix, decided to have the crew stay overnight at their apartment. After a long shoot, she claimed Phoenix offered to sleep in the living room and give Gorka his private bedroom. According to Gorka's complaint, she awoke in the middle of the night to find Affleck laying in bed next to her. She alleges that the actor was curled up next to her in the bed, wearing only his underwear and a t-shirt. He had his arm around her, was caressing her back. His face was within inches of hers, and his breath reeked of alcohol. Again, these are some of the allegations.
She said stop, he got up and left, and she said, but he slammed the door. Okay, so if it's true, and we have no idea if it's true, don't walk into somebody's bed and start hugging them. That's crazy, in your underwear. So obviously that's very wrong, if it's true. Even so, some of these allegations about joking about your sexual exploits, but one of them had worked with him for 10 years. I don't want to litigate this case, but it's like, could you joke around with someone you've known for 10 years about sexual exploits, and then you think it's within the line and she thinks it's outside of the line? My point is, you could be justifiably outraged by some of these allegations, and some of them are not that outrageous. In one of the allegations, and so if you hate me for saying that,
yeah,
that's fine.
I actually do want to stop you from litigating, because I think then you get into murky territory without really understanding what is and isn't considered sexual harassment. So we're not experts in that, and I don't think we should get into that.
All right. Look, the reason that I get into the details at all is because there are a million cases of significant sexual harassment that are ignored, and we talk about it, and we want to bring attention to it, etc. And they don't get millions of dollars, and they're, and it's a woman in West Virginia who's constantly harassed by her boss, and it grinds away at her humanity, etc. And so then when you have allegations of they once used my room to have sex with other girls, and I want a couple $1 million. Okay, but look, on the other hand, getting in the bed with the underwear and putting your arm around her, crazy, right? So you're right. I don't want to litigate every part of this, and we have no idea which detail is true or not. But my overall point is proven by this conversation, which is we're positive that he's guilty and that he shouldn't get anything from Hollywood going forward in his life. That's crazy talk.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and even the writer here in one of the articles that we read says at the end, it's a cycle of easy forgiveness and celebrity-related amnesia. I think the opposite. I think they're never forgiven. It comes every time.
You're so wrong. I mean, what's his name? I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. First of all,
Chris Brown?
Well, okay, yeah, I wasn't even thinking of him, but that one filmmaker who's older and he's been around forever.
Woody Allen.
Woody Allen. Okay, everyone gives Woody Allen a pass. Like, no one takes anything.
No, I don't think so. So now it depends on what you mean, right? So Woody Allen has made many other movies and has gotten accolades. Mel Gibson just made a movie and has gotten accolades. So you could say forgiven. On the other hand, every time Woody Allen and Mel Gibson's name is mentioned, it is added, but he's anti-Semitic and has said racist things about Mel Gibson and Woody Allen, but he slept with his da-da-da, and
Woody Allen,
every time.
I think with Mel Gibson, because the evidence was just so jarring, you're right. With Woody Allen, though, I feel like he is highly regarded, highly respected in the entertainment industry, still has a very successful career, is doing his thing, and the damage has been minimal, okay, overall. And even, look, and I'm now talking specifically about people in Hollywood. Roman Polanski. I mean, you have people in Hollywood still giving Roman Polanski a pass. It's insane.
No, see, that's what I'm saying. Roman Polanski's real. He raped a 13-year-old girl and admitted it. There's no question about it. There's no pass for that ever, right? And the fact that he gets to have credibility, I think, is crazy. He ran away. He never served a sentence. If he had served a sentence and then got out, you could say, look, the man committed a terrible crime and served a lot of time for it. But he didn't. And he got away with it because he was a celebrity and famous. And yes, and there is a dichotomy. For some celebrities, until it gets into the press and gets momentum, they can get away with a ton of stuff. I mean, look at what Trump said. He said, I grab him by the pussy and they let me do it because I'm famous, right? So, of course that exists. That's exactly why I get annoyed at a story like this, because that is so real and gets minimized way too often.
I agree with you, yes.
And then you take a story like this, and I guarantee you from now on, There will be no amnesia. Every time Casey Affleck's name is mentioned, they will mention this story, right or wrong. Become a TYT member and get all of our shows, including the ones only members see, Old School, Aggressive Progressive, our post games, TYT Classics, and you even get the interviews before anyone else does. TYTnetwork.com/join.
This girl's weekend started out in every car of the train. Except, of course, the quiet car.
Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort has increased its annual fee for its members from $100,000 to $200,000, which of course has some ethical issues attached to it, considering the fact that Donald Trump still owns the company. He has ownership stake in the company. And so if individuals can purchase a $200,000 membership that he A, profits from, and B, could be influenced by, politically speaking, well, we're going to run into a few issues. And already it seems as though he has broken, or at least violated, his own ethics pledges. So again, membership to President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago Club in Palm Beach, Florida, has doubled from $100,000 to $200,000 since he won the election. By the way, that is bananas. $200,000 to be a member of some club. $200,000. You know how many people make $200,000 a year? Like, for their livelihood? Not many.
No, very few.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So, that's just to get into the club. Anyways, the more important part of this is that he is now calling Mar-a-Lago the Winter White House.
Yeah.
So, basically, he's saying, if you'd like to come to the Winter White House to perhaps run into the president and influence him, well, it's going to cost you more money, which is not a campaign contribution. It's going to go straight into Donald Trump's pocket.
That's right.
That is self-dealing and a conflict of interest so gigantic, it's immeasurable. Again, you right-wingers, could you imagine Hillary Clinton owns a club, and afterwards she says, oh, now it'll cost you $200,000 to be in my club, but it's the Winter White House, and you can see me there anytime. You would have lost your mind. Crooked Hillary! We knew it!
You know who else would lose their minds? And they'd be justified? Liberals.
Of course.
Right? That's one of the biggest things that she got criticized for. Her cozy ties to Wall Street, her speeches to people who destroyed the economy. You know, it's amazing because you don't get the same behavior or the same criticism when someone on the right is doing it. The right just kind of sits back and lets it happen. By the way, what happened to draining the swamp? Like, Donald Trump is swimming in the swamp, okay? He's a swamp monster.
He is. So yesterday we told you about his two new ethics officers for the Trump organization, and one of them conveniently happened to be his lawyer that defended him on Trump University.
Oh, I have deets on that.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. George Sorial is his name, a longtime Trump employee who defended Trump University in court, was named Chief Compliance Officer. So I'm sure he's going to keep him honest, you know?
Yeah, problem solved.
Mm-hmm. And also Bobby Birchfield, a Republican lawyer with King and Spalding, who also chairs the conservative advocacy group Crossroads GPS, was named an independent ethics advisor to the company.
That's Carl Rove's super PAC. Their whole job is to collect unaccountable money, dark money, and funnel it to Republican politicians. That guy runs a PAC dedicated to corruption, and he's now the ethics officer for Trump organization. Another ethics officer is the one that defended the largest scam Trump ever ran, Trump University. So, don't worry, ethics is covered under the Trump administration.
And remember, Trump settled the Trump University drama by paying a $25 million settlement, okay? Yeah. I mean, why would anyone think he would look out for the average American when he went out of his way to make a buck off scamming desperate students?
Of course, and another expert notes, by the way, that the Trump organization is not a publicly held company, so there are no checks that you would have in a publicly traded company. There are no shareholders, no board that could reel him in. So Trump gets to do whatever he wants, and he says, that's okay, these two very ethical lawyers that I hired will hold my organization in check. Like they did with Trump University. So, to be fair to Donald Trump, this is a bargain. You get institutional corruption and personal corruption, all for the low price of just one president. Yeah. And $200,000 membership.
He's actually a much more expensive politician to buy. Because I remember, like, back in the day, you'd have, let's say, members of weapons manufacturers, whatever, trying to sway a politician. They'd be like, I'll give you like $8,000, hook me up. Mm-hmm. And politicians would be like, sold. Like, over here, you have, like, Donald Trump, getting $200,000. And not only does he profit directly from that, it goes straight into his pocket, but he makes a lot more than other politicians have in the past for being bribed.
Let me say one last thing. Do you think that people who are trying to influence Trump aren't going to go in there and buy this? Do you think not only business interests, but foreign interests aren't all of a sudden going to sign up for Mar-a-Lago? So yet another way that Trump can enrich himself, possibly. And so we'll keep checking. See if foreigners are signing up for the Mar-a-Lago membership, because that is also against the United States Constitution, personally enriching yourself from foreign interests when you're president of the United States. That's the emoluments clause in the Constitution. So let's see. There better not be any foreign, folks that sign up for Mar-a-Lago, or I should say the Winter White House. Become a TYT member and you get all the shows on the network, including Aggressive Progressive, the most progressive show there is anywhere. Check it out. tytnetwork.com/join.
Buckle up your taste buds for the ultimate flavor thrill ride. It's the return of smoked brisket. Smoky, tender goodness on all your Qdoba favorites. And now you can give it an extra kick with new habanero barbecue brisket. Smoked brisket, only at Qdoba Mexicanese.
Back in 2009, President Barack Obama wanted to ensure that people coming into office would have not so cozy ties with companies that they previously worked for. So he wanted incoming officials to sign a pledge that would ensure that if there was a company or a corporation that they worked for, there would have to be at least a 2-year time span between when they worked for the company and when they came into office in order to sever, understandable ties so there isn't as much corruption. Well, Donald Trump and his administration have decided they have no interest in signing that pledge, and that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. So that's a problem considering the fact that you have someone like Rex Tillerson, who was the CEO of Exxon. Apparently they gave him $180 million in his retirement package, and so, yeah, cozy ties to a huge corporation. So is there a conflict of interest issue there? Is there a problem with corruption there? Absolutely. There are other cases as well, but I want you to jump in, Jake.
Yeah, so Obama, to his credit, but I usually didn't take credit for this, made people sign that 2-year pledge. It was an executive order where they could not work on things related not just to their previous firms, but to also any of their previous clients that they served in those firms. That's a pretty good pledge. Now, look, I blame Obama for not going to the heart of the issue and trying to get money out of politics. But this was among the small changes that he did. But that small change was positive. It was going in the right direction. Now, Trump, of course, headed in the wrong direction. So, by law, they have to at least have a 1-year pledge.
Yes.
Right? So, the Obama's executive order was 2 years. So, and your clients as well. By law, it just is about your own business and for 1 year. So now, Wilbur Ross has signed the 1-year pledge, and Rick Perry has. And Rick Perry used to be on the board of Energy Transfer Partners. It's very relevant for DAPL. And so that's good. At least they're abiding by the bare minimum.
Yep.
But then there are others. Well, they could do the 2 years. They could do the executive order. Not repeal it. He has to repeal it in order for them to actually get away with doing only 1 year. Well, I mean, Rex Tillerson, they gave him $180 million before he left.
Right.
You think that buys some loyalty? You think that he's, as soon as the year is, first of all, he's not even going to wait for the year. He's just going to tell his underling, oh, I have nothing to do with this, but boy, I think Exxon makes a good case to lift those sanctions on Russia that cost Exxon a $500 billion deal. But even if he were to not do that and he wanted to actually follow the law, on the first day after that runs out, he'll be like, okay, we're doing the lifting the sanctions, etc. But anyway, they'll do all that regardless. But then you look at Gary Cohn, who's now the National Economic Council Director. He was the Goldman Sachs president. You know how much Goldman Sachs gave him? $100 million on his way out. Remember, Cheney got $34 million from Halliburton on his way out.
Yep.
And then Halliburton got no bid contracts from the guys who claim that they're for the free market system, right? No bid contracts, a monopoly on a war that Cheney started. So that's a nice little thank you, and they made billions off of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that $34 million to Cheney was pocket change. It was money well spent. So now ExxonMobil has a $500 billion deal in place with Russia that's going to go as soon as Tillerson lifts those sanctions. $180 million to Tillerson. Well worth it. Goldman Sachs is going to make billions. $100 million exit package, well worth it.
And look, Trump has already been on the record talking about the sanctions that Russia is dealing with, not because of what happened in this past election, but the sanctions related to the annexation of Crimea. Okay, Trump was talking about that and how Russia's suffering. We got to lift those sanctions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So keep that in mind.
That's coming. But you know what? One more part of this that's important, and that refers to General Mattis. James Mattis was going to be the defense secretary. So he was a board member of General Dynamics, and this is the revolving door that I told you about that leads us into more wars. So that you rise up the ranks in the military, you become a general, etc., and then you retire. And then the defense contractors hire all the top generals. They hire almost all of them. You know how much you got for being a board member? A board member is not someone who runs the company. It's a person who oversees the CEO, and they have usually quarterly meetings. You might prepare a little bit for those 4 meetings a year. $1 million. Now, you think every guy rising up the ranks, I'm not talking about the average guy in the military. The average guy is doing what he's told and sacrificing a lot, right? But when you get in the upper ranks, you think those generals aren't thinking about the paycheck they're going to get from the defense contractors? And lo and behold, those generals keep on recommending that we use those defense contractors and buy more and more of their equipment and start more and more wars. And then the revolving door works this way. General, the defense contractor making $1 million, then back into the government as a defense secretary, start more wars, then back into the defense industry and make millions of dollars more. And by the way, even if you leave a lot of these industries, they give you a giant exit package on your way to the government to do the right thing. And this is how we get a military-industrial complex, and this is how we get systematic corruption. And that's what we're living in today. If you like this Young Turks video, wait till you get a little Young Turks membership. So many more shows and no ads at all. Come and see. tytnetwork.com/join.
Rated RP2M. Get the bundle now.
During the 2016 election, both Google and Facebook got a considerable amount of criticism for not doing enough to stop the spreading of fake news. Well, now Google and Facebook have both implemented certain policies that go after websites or pages that have misleading or intentionally misleading information about certain people, right? They also are targeting websites that try to pose as their other media outlets, right? Mm-hmm. So it's good that it's now on their radar and they want to do something about it, but some of those policies might have some issues. Now, Google just announced that it took action against 340 sites that deceive people with their content, including purveyors of fake news in 2016. Close to 200 of these sites no longer are allowed to use Google Ads. Okay, so they haven't been banned. Like, they'll still possibly pop up in the Google search engine, but they are not allowing AdSense, which monetizes these pages, to be utilized on the pages.
Yeah, Google doesn't control the internet. Google doesn't own the internet.
Right.
It might seem like it at times, but it doesn't. But what it does do is it powers the internet through monetizing it, and it's through AdSense. So when they turn that off, well, we'll see how much it affects things. Because if they were using it as a business model, well, Google might have just killed their business model. So that might help in bringing down the number of fake news sites. But if it turns out people are using it for propaganda, well, they would pay for that anyway. Because for them, the objective is not to make money; it's to influence elections or popular culture or the media.
Yeah, so they're essentially, squeezing some of the revenue that these pages could get. Now, understand, like, the only other way that some of these pages could get the revenue is if they find sponsors, and I think a lot of advertisers stay away from these types of websites anyway.
No advertiser would go on a site.
Yeah, and then no investor is going to invest in that. Let's keep it 100, right?
Yeah. No, look, there was a period on the internet where people would invest in clownish things, like some websites would take other people's articles and just like jumble the words. Mm-hmm. But people would search for it because they were looking for the same words, and then they would accrue some money and they would get ads. And people paid money to buy those companies, and I thought they were mental, and I was right. A year after buying one of those companies, one of the major media companies immediately shut it down. Mm-hmm. It's word salad. I mean, shockingly enough, it turns out not all media companies are geniuses. They don't seem to make the right decision every time. But this is different. Nobody's going to go in an investor meeting. Okay, all right, guys, we've got a bunch of fake news, and we trick people with it, and we lie to them all the time. You guys want to invest?
And by the way, I want to be clear about something. They're not only targeting fake news. And by the way, Google was very careful not to use the phrase fake news when they made their announcement. They're going after individuals who are intentionally misleading the public and also advertising scammers. So ads that scam people about weight loss products and things like that.
And people pretending to be things that they're not. Like,
yes.
Starbucks. We sell coffee, and we have a mermaid with 3, things.
Right, and he's just using that as like a hypothetical. Yes. So that's not an actual thing, at least not that I know. But here's the only problem, and I don't know, maybe you disagree with me on this. So 200 of these pages have now been permanently banned from using Google AdSense and making revenue through that platform. So we don't know who the arbiters are behind the scenes, and we also don't know which websites have now been permanently banned. And so that worries me a little bit.
No, I hear you. If it goes further, then I start to get deeply concerned, right? Because then, remember, the mainstream media thinks that they don't have a bias, but they do. It's not a conservative one, it's not a liberal one, it's an establishment bias. So they view the world through the prism of insiders in basically the major cities that they live in, Washington, New York, LA, and San Francisco. So they think that, the system is fine, the status quo is fine, the government largely tells the truth, or almost always tells the truth until Trump came in, right? The Pentagon's wonderful. So if you were to say, hey, I don't believe the government on certain things, they might say, conspiracy theorists. Mm-hmm. That's their world view. Now, if they start banning that stuff, that's crazy talk, right? Because their perspective is not the only correct perspective. Even for guys who are mental, like Alex Jones, he's allowed to be mental. Oh my
God, I just realized something. So, InfoWars peddles ridiculous conspiracy theories that are not based on facts at all. They spread things. The whole Pizzagate thing, they were essential in spreading that ridiculous conspiracy theory that could have gotten people killed, by the way, right? So, think about where InfoWars makes some revenue, or a considerable amount of revenue. YouTube, which is owned by Google.
No, I hear you. I hope they don't go in that direction, because as much of a lunatic as Alex Jones is, and as much as most of his program is outright fabrications, that's like their opinion, man. So to me, there's a difference between I published a story that I knew to be incorrect. Like Harry Reid is now an Elvis impersonator in Vegas. Fun, but not true, right? On the other hand, Anna, that's why this is a little bit dangerous and a very challenging question, because in the middle of saying that, I remembered, wait, Alex Jones told a lie about Harry Reid that's much worse. He said Harry Reid was behind Sandy Hook being a false flag operation.
Yes, look, that's what I'm saying, though. Okay, so, look, has Alex Jones at some point reported stories that might be accurate? Sure. But he also intentionally misleads the public about things that are dangerous.
So that's the other problem as to why this is a tricky issue. Because I don't know what Alex Jones actually thinks. He's the ravings of a lunatic mind.
You know what he thinks. Think about, sorry to bring it up, think about what happened at the RNC and how they premeditated that, they planned that out. They completely manipulated the discussion in the media about what they did. They had one of their people lead them onto our stage and pretend like that individual was one of our producers and that they were invited onto our stage. They intentionally do things to lie to people.
No, you're absolutely right about that. So let me make the distinctions. So we know through personal experience that they're brazen liars and they have no attachment to the truth, because, as Anna pointed out, they pretended that one of their own producers was our producer and invited them onto the stage. And afterwards, they said, like with a straight face, like, they invited us on. I can't believe they did this. I'm going to take my shirt off, right? And then they referred, and you see that on the videotape, it's their producer. Of course, none of our producers asked them to be on, and you see who it is. Anyway, but this, like, whether you believe us or them, our point is we know, and we know that he knows. He knows it's his own producer, and he lies about it without blinking. Right. The flip side is he's full-blown mental. I mean, remember the things he said,
I want to go to space. We're under attack. It is an alien force, not of this world. It's the devil, okay?
Okay, now if you watch that whole clip that we showed, he really believes that the Earth is under attack by aliens and the devil. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So, now, on the other hand, it's a free country and you're allowed to be mental. So I wouldn't want them shutting down InfoWars. I think that's very scary talk.
You are, of course you're allowed to be mental, right? Your mental statements, as long as they don't incite violence, and in some cases I think that he does incite violence, is protected under our Constitution.
Right.
Google is a private company, and they can make whatever business decision they want to make. So if they watch InfoWars coverage and they realize that, hey, this is actually dangerous, misleading, it's propaganda, Google can make that decision.
Well, Google certainly can. If I was advising Google, I think I would tell them not to, but I'm not advising them, and that's like my opinion, man.
Yeah.
But so that's why your original point is a great one. That, yeah, if they're just getting rid of things that are obviously fake, it seems like it's a good thing, and I agree with it. But it does start to go down a slope that is a little dangerous as to who's the arbiter of what's real and what's not. Mm-hmm. But they certainly don't have to give money through AdSense to people that they think are making stuff up and that are impersonating other people and all the other things that they point out here. Get the full 2-hour show ad-free. Become a member. tytnetwork.com/join.
Buckle up your taste buds for the ultimate flavor thrill ride. It's the return of smoked brisket. Smoky, tender goodness on all your Qdoba favorites. And now you can give it an extra kick with new habanero barbecue brisket. Smoked brisket, only at Qdoba Mexican Eats.
Market analysts are looking at various stocks that are likely to do well in Trump's administration. And one stock that is definitely expected to do well has to do with private prisons, specifically GEO Group and Corrections Corporation of America. Now that's weird. I mean, under Obama, there was a plan to stop the use of private prisons on a federal level. But Donald Trump is likely to amplify the construction and the implementation of private prisons because of the fact that he wants to detain as many undocumented immigrants as possible. Now, besides announcing that he will triple the number of immigration and customs enforcement officers and order the Department of Homeland Security to start building the wall, Trump and his team also committed to locking up more immigrants who illegally cross the border. Now, let's stop for a second. Think about what that means, okay? So if you detain undocumented immigrants, some of which might be asylum seekers, the American taxpayer, who's very, very concerned about us wasting money, would have to pay these private prisons to detain them for years on end. Okay, instead of just deporting them. Let me continue. The whole project could cost more than $117 billion over the next 10 years. Now, full disclosure, though, that figure was estimated by a think tank that is associated with Hillary Clinton, so it could be an inflated figure, but we know that private prisons are actually very costly, and they're way more costly than publicly run prisons. So Geo Group recently hired 2 former session staffers onto its DC lobbying team, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, I just want to be fair to Center for American Progress. That's the think tank that you were alluding to. So they've done some great work in the past. Yes, they definitely backed Hillary Clinton, or the people who ran that organization were big Hillary Clinton supporters. But that doesn't mean that they're like the right wing. They actually fact check. They do their research. So I've not run in like some of David Brock's groups.
Yeah.
During the campaign, I ran into plenty of things where I was like, that's not really true. But in terms of Center for American Progress, I never saw them print anything that wasn't true.
Yeah, look, I'm just keeping it real. Anytime that you state a statistic that comes from a think tank that has a bias, you should state what that bias is. So yeah, just keep it at 100 with you guys.
Totally fair.
But there are other independent studies pertaining to the issue of private prisons. There are people, academics, who have looked into this issue. There are state lawmakers who have looked into this issue to see whether or not private prisons actually save money, and they end up being way more costly. And so, again, you can look into it yourself. Private prisons have been a disaster. They've been a disaster because it is a business that only wants to profit. And the way that they profit is by imprisoning non-violent offenders. Okay, so that's the reason why we continuously have these ridiculous prohibitions on drugs like marijuana, and that's the reason why, some of the red states will push harder on anti-immigration policies.
So let me be clear about this. We're going to win out private prisons. Now, that's a long-term mission, and you think, well, really? I mean, they keep getting bigger and bigger and stronger, and it's easy. They just, legally bribe politicians through campaign contributions to build more private prisons, even though it costs more money, is more dangerous, etc., right? No, I think that if you've got strong Democrats at some point that actually make a case, right, that the American people are going to intuitively understand that if you incentivize anyone to do something through profits, they will do more of it. Like, everybody gets that, right? So if you say you will make more money if you imprison more Americans, they're going to imprison more Americans, right or wrong, because that's how they make money. Now, the private prisons don't get to arrest you. Not exactly right. They contribute to campaigns when those politicians pass laws to imprison more people. So, for example, undocumented immigrants, Trump just declared them all criminals. Before, they didn't have documents, and if they had committed a crime like assault, etc., then they would be sent back, but first they would be in a detention center. Now they're saying, well, the act of crossing the border is now considered a criminal act, which it wasn't before. So now immediately you're going to have to go to those private prisons where they're going to make more money. And I can give you a list of a dozen other ways that they have passed laws to make sure that the private prison business is a good business. Now, maybe some of you don't mind if you think, those immigrants, they had it coming, right? But you think they're not going to pass laws to put you in prison?
I mean, that's exactly what's been happening, by the way. Okay, so private prisons weren't really an issue in the United States until the 80s. I don't know if it's ironic, but in 1984, the private prison industrial complex just exploded, and it was because of our draconian laws on marijuana, right? And so they're like, oh my God, look at all these publicly run prisons. They can't house all these drug users. So why don't we make a business out of it? And so that's exactly what they did. And all of a sudden you see Geo Group popping up all over the place, Corrections Corporation of America popping up all over the place. And so when people ask the question over and over again, why have we not taken marijuana off of the Schedule 1 label? Well, it's because people are making money off of its prohibition. That's why it's happening. And Jeff Sessions himself has been very aggressive against legalizing marijuana. And so to think that 2 of his former staffers have now been hired as lobbyists for these private prisons scares the hell out of me. So we'll see what happens.
I know what's going to happen. They didn't hire them by accident. Of course they hired them so they can influence Jeff Sessions. That's how it works. So that he could arrest more Americans so they can make more money. No, we're going to put an end to this. JusticeDemocrats.com. Because at some point, they're going to start arresting too many white folks. It's like what happened with the drug laws. All of a sudden, oh my God, people on painkillers now taking heroin, and a lot of white folks being arrested in Kentucky. All of a sudden, the Kentucky senators are like, maybe we should do criminal justice reform. No, there shouldn't be a single private prison in America, and we will get to a point where there isn't. JusticeDemocrats.com. Did I say anything? I just said it. If you like some of the political stories we do on the show, you're going to love Aggressive Progressive. Get that show just for members at tytnetwork.com/join. That was a good one.